Colfax, Washington. It's good to welcome them aboard, and we welcome to our microphones Dr. Timothy Leary. The last time his name was mentioned on this program was by G. Gordon Liddy. He and Mr. Liddy. Are you still debating? Do you still go around the country?
We have some coming up next fall.
Kind of like an act, right? You go to college campuses like Martin and Lewis.
Well, I think of it like the Celtics and the Lakers, or Lincoln and Douglas, the classic...
What is the debate about? What is the title of the debate?
Well, it's the power of the state versus the rights of the individual. And guess who represents...
You represent the individual and Liddy
Well, I
the
should
state.
hope so, yeah. Gordon definitely never had an idea unless it's authorized.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put myself in the opposite camp.
He is, though, a nicer guy than we would have imagined from reading the Watergate days. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Do you know the story? The first time I met him
No.
busted me walking in my bedroom at midnight when I was living up in Millbrook, New York. It was a totally illegal raid. He busted me for the possession of peat moss, because we knew they were coming and all that. And then the next time I crossed paths with him, we were both at a federal prison at Treasure Island, rather a Terminal Island, and then we ended up on the lecture circuit only in America.
Yeah, but he is a nice guy.
Well, I don't want to say that, Larry.
Come on,
because
say
I'll put him out. He said to me many times, Tim, promise you won't tell people I'm a nice guy because it'll ruin my income. He thinks of himself as the Darth Vader of the Nixon and Reagan administrations. I don't want to blow his cool.
Don't blow his cool.
He's a terrible, horrible, dangerous person. And for the record.
What is your doctorate in?
Psychology.
And you taught at Harvard?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you were for a time very villainous in this country, I guess, with the LSD situation, and people would be angry about Timothy Leary.
They still are, by the way.
Yeah, but it's tempered somewhat. How are you? In fact, I guess there's young people who wouldn't even know your name, right?
That's the truth, right?
How did you react to all of that attention?
Well, you remember, just to give a brief historical recap, from the years 1960 to 1963, at Harvard University, we assembled a really brilliant crew of philosophers and psychologists and divinity students and divinity professors studying the effects of psychedelic plants, basically mushrooms and peyote, and then the chemical forms of them. And we felt that this is a wonderful tool to expand consciousness, and if used thoughtfully, would help you get different perspectives. And we were very, very, very enthusiastic about it. And some of the older professors took me aside and said, listen, you're going to get into a lot of trouble, because number one, a lot of people don't want to have consciousness expanded. Number two, the very word drug. We didn't call them drugs. They were neurotransmitters, or they were psychedelic activators. But the word drug carries a tremendous traffic and freight of fear. So it was a great shock to me when I suddenly discovered I was unpopular and being set up as someone who was going to bring down
all the things you were doing were under the auspices of the university, though?
For the first 3 years, and then
they were experimentally approved.
Oh yeah.
And you were thrown out. For?
Well, basically because that kind of research shouldn't be done at a university. It's avant-garde research, and because undergraduates were beginning to use it, we weren't not giving it to undergraduates, and it started circling out. A lot of parents complained because their kids were calling up and saying, "Guess what, Mom and Dad? I've just had a wonderful revelation. I'm going to leave now and go to India, or I'm going to change my life." And the kid, parents, I was very sympathetic to the authorities. They didn't send their kids to Harvard to become young Buddhas or become rock stars.
You became kind of the guru of this.
I don't like the word guru. As a good Irishman, I don't like that idea.
Is LSD a thing of the past now?
I was on a show today in Philadelphia. It's Tuesday, isn't it? And a man named Martin Lee, who's just written a book on LSD, was there, and he said that government statistics say there's as much LSD being used today as there was in the 60s. The eye of the media sees leaving LSD alone. Now you got crack, and you got Nicaragua, and now you got Ayatollah Khomeini, so that
it's not in this week.
Yeah.
I understand that Dr. Leary is back now teaching. Where?
Well, I was liquidated from Harvard in 1963, and this summer I'm going to be a visiting lecturer at the California Family Center training in Burbank, California. I'm going to be teaching Mind Mirror, and it's the first honest job I've had in 20.
You're going to teach it as a course?
I'm going to teach Mind Mirror as a course. They're using it in helping people understand themselves and clarify their minds. And it's wonderful, you see, for family counseling. You get the whole family in. And they can all put their thoughts about each other on the screen and get...
What have you been doing for 23 years?
What have I been doing?
Uh-huh. If this is your first honest job, what have you been doing?
I'm a free agent.
Non-drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, what have you been doing, though?
I write books, give lectures. For about 5 of those years, I had my rent paid by the United States prison
What did
system.
you serve time for?
Possession of 2 roaches, which somehow appeared in my ashtray of my car, which I didn't know about.
And you did 5 years for that?
Uh-huh.
Why? Why so long?
They were pretty mad at me.
For?
Well, for saying what was on my mind and talking about consciousness and drugs, and it was, you remember the 60s, it was pretty...
Well, you had a period there. I guess the worst thing that happened to you was there were some people who committed suicide with LSD, right? The Art Linkletter daughter case and the like.
Well, she actually didn't kill her. She hadn't taken LSD for 6 months. But yes, there's no question that people got tremendously confused and hurt themselves and killed themselves during that period. How many, we don't know.
How should the society use the psychedelic equipment it has at hand? Ideally, how should the society use LSD?
I testified in 1963 before Teddy Kennedy's committee answering that same question. And I said that psychedelic drugs, which include marijuana, should be totally supervised by the state. That is, quality should be established, and you should have to be trained in how to use them, and they should be prescribed. And if you screwed up, you take your license away. You'd have to demonstrate you knew how to use it like an automobile. Or
That sounds very tame today.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does the mind expansion, what did mind expansion do to better people?
Well, see, the interesting thing is, Larry, that the whole culture is LSD.
Now, do you think time will change our attitude toward you? You think history will perceive you differently than it perceived you in the 60s?
It depends who writes the history. We all know that the history is rewritten by the conquerors, and it depends who wins this particular chapter of evolution that we're working on. If the forces that are running America now continue, the Christian right wing and the fundamentalists and the militarists and so forth, I will be known as some eccentric footnote of how horrible it was.
You think the Christian right wing is running the country?
I said if they do. They certainly are moving into more power. They're certainly on the upswing, and the superstition and the lack of clear thinking that characterized American society is a shock to me when I think in 5 years how clear thinking to me seems to...
Why do you dislike corporation structure organizations?
I went to West Point. I was trained, went to Jesuit schools. I've been at Harvard University. I was 5 years in the Army. I've been in prison for 5 years. I've seen bureaucracies in and out. I know how they operate. And we all know that you join the team, and the main function of the team is keep it going. Bureaucracies tend to limit individual initiative, creativity, and above all, change. The bureaucrat wants to keep the ship from, losing course.
But Dr. Leary in New York City, hello.
Hello, Dr. Leary. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine.
That's good. I was wondering if you had tried ecstasy and what you thought of it, and also how you would, or if you would, compare it to LSD.
Yeah, of course, I'm not anxious to talk about drugs a lot, but I know I have to because that's the turf that I've charted out. I have taken ecstasy.
What is ecstasy? I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know it as a drug.
I don't want to pose
I know it as a lifestyle.
Yeah. I don't want to pose as a pharmacologist here. Ecstasy is called MDMA, and it's the drug that became popular 2 or 3 years ago. It was legal then. It's a drug which apparently in most people creates a sense of deep empathy. The difference between this and hallucinogens like LSD is that there's no alteration of reality. It's a very clear thinking experience. It was made illegal about 6 months ago, and we're still fighting that case.
Did you enjoy